Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Emily Reilly, and I am joined with my colleague Bridget Meis and three child care center directors who have been operating high quality programming throughout the summer months during the pandemic. So Bridget and I, in our role with StarNet, we do a lot of training and technical assistance with early childhood providers, as well as administrators and family members too. And in that role, we have recently been receiving, just lots of questions, concerns from family members, providers, teachers, administrators, about what really is the school year going to look like come August. And that is actually something we're not always able to fully address as well. So many of you who might be listening today, just like us, maybe you were waiting on some guidance from the Illinois State Board of Ed Early Childhood Division before you were really thinking about your plan in too much depth and what you were going to be doing for August. And speaking of ISB guidance, I do just want to mention they did this week post an FAQ, very specific for early childhood. So if you're not, if you haven't accessed that yet, I encourage you to take a look at that and just stay connected. Check that website frequently because there is updates uploaded to the ISB website as well. So then anyway, after that, so Bridget and I recently were having a conversation, just talking about the state of early childhood, what's going on. And I shared with her from my perspective as a parent, because I have a 3-year-old who just returned to a childcare setting part-time about a month ago. And so I was just sharing with her some of the new protocols, what was happening at the childcare center. And from my perspective, it seemed to be going really well. I didn't notice any changes really with my daughter. She was excited to go to the childcare. She adjusted to, wearing the mask well. And so seemed to be, really successful. And so Bridget was like, hey, we need to talk to those people. We need to talk to childcare people. They are doing this. They are living, this whole pandemic and how to provide quality childcare and education. And so I was like, yeah, you are absolutely right. We need to hear from those voices in the field who are kind of leading the way during this uncertain time. And, certainly I'm sure with it being so new, you guys are adapting all the time, right? There's new information coming out. And so you've been adapting and being flexible. And so we just thought there was lots of opportunity for some of those public school programs that are getting ready to open up in the fall to learn from childcare professionals and what they've been experiencing these past few months. So with that, I said, yeah, let's go ahead. We're going to reach out to some childcare directors and see if they'd be interested in talking with us today. So we invited, we've got Amy Lofthouse with us today. She's from the NIU, that's Northern Illinois University, Child Development and Family Center. That is in DeKalb, Illinois. And she directs the Preschool for All expansion program there, in addition to lots of other things, but probably the main role that's most relevant for today's conversation. And then Kristin as well is one of her colleagues, also at the NIU Child Development and Family Center as the Deputy Director. So she oversees several of the programs that are going on there, and they have I think, Kristin, you said about 12 classrooms, is that right? And 3 different types of programming. And then we also have Laurie Rhodes with us today, who is from Springfield at Lincoln Land Community College and also directing a childcare program there. So I know all of both programs have been NACCE accredited, are currently accredited, have gone through the process many times. So I know that development of appropriate practice is really important to you all and a concern. And I'm sure things that you were discussing before reopening, like how do we continue to provide this high quality program during this challenging time with these additional regulations and restrictions on health and safety, and with social distancing, what does that look like in a preschool classroom? So Laurie, I think I'm gonna start with you. If you could share with us, I know you, again, have gone through accreditation, you've been part of Illinois AUIC, so you are definitely an advocate for developmentally appropriate practices. And I'm just curious to know, just hear your experience. What have you noticed? Has there been an impact on developmentally appropriate practice in the classroom with the current situation?
So really, I think when we were talking about our reopening plan, that was one of the things that the teachers were really adamant about, that, you know what, these kids only have a chance to be kids once. And so in the midst of the coronavirus, we're going to make sure that we're still providing them with a developmental learning that is good for their development and those type of things. And so one of the things that they really wanted to make sure is, as we set up our classrooms and got ready for them to come back, that we were still going to have all of those opportunities for them that we know are really, really important. And so as we've come back, one of the biggest things that we found was that if only we could always be these kind of ratios. Their social emotional development is just like, it's wonderful to have these low ratios in the classroom. If only finances would allow us to have that. But at this time, what a great thing that they're able to have those experiences and have more one-on-one and have lots of attention within the classroom.
Okay.
And Laurie, that's coming at just the right time too, because we know that with the pandemic, everyone's been impacted. So they need that additional social emotional support. So it's nice that you're able to provide that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Amy and Kristin, is there anything you guys would like to add as far as the idea of developmentally appropriate practice in the classroom and how it's been impacted, what you've noticed?
I think for us, the big piece is really thinking outside the box. And so, like you said, Laurie, that was a priority of ours, is making sure that we're maintaining the developmentally appropriate practices in the classroom and giving those children the opportunities that they've been used to. Our program is very blessed in the standpoint that we have a lot of opportunities to do laundry. And I know that this isn't for everybody, but this has allowed us to have multiple sets of dramatic play clothes, for example, in the classroom. So we can do washing, of one set of clothing before putting some others out, so that that's always still maintained in the classroom. So we've just had to really think outside the box, I think, is the big piece, that you can do it. Is it easy? No. Is it written down in a book somewhere? No. But I think if you're really intentional about it and you're really wanting that experience for your children, that you could easily do it. And so that was a big piece for me when we were starting this plan anyways.
Yeah, I think to bounce off of Amy, just in terms of like thinking outside of the box, we were not looking at that list that DCFS put out and saying, okay, well, now we can't do any of these things. We said, how can we do these things differently? So we don't want to have the media table be out because we don't want them to be working so closely together, but we know how important sensory materials are for children. So how do we individualize sensory play? How can we put those materials into smaller tubs so that they can be individualized for children, so that we could still have that experience in the classroom? Our Play-Doh is now all individualized, and then we're just washing the toys after everyone plays. So it's a lot more cleaning, but it's not limiting. And I think that's the difference, is that we're not saying we can't do this anymore. We're just saying, how do we do it safely? And by individualizing things a little bit more often and thinking about, okay, well, I'm only going to have a couple kids at this table because we want to maintain the social distance while they're playing. We're okay. Well, then when those kids are done, those materials go into the sink so that they're ready to be washed, so that we'll just take out another set. So like Amy said, we're thankful that we have enough materials that we can have multiple sets, so that while some are in use, some are still clean, so that we can keep that stock rotating. We did have a conversation with a couple other center directors recently, and they were just saying they were kind of splitting larger sets of things down so that they could break up. If you've got a huge bucket of Duplos, you put the one set out, and then that set's being cleaned, you take the other set out, so that again, we're not limiting the experiences of the kids. We're just trying to keep everybody safe and doing that in a smart way.
I have the key story. I was walking in through back to the classroom one day and I heard one of the little girls say, Miss Shirley, do you remember before the coronavirus when we had lots of chairs in our classroom? And so, you know, it's just things like that. It's about making more room for things so that there is, that they can still play with the blocks or they can still play in dramatic area, but we just made those areas bigger. And we're fortunate because we do have pretty large classrooms to begin with, but taking out some of the things that we really didn't need. Right now, we didn't need 25 chairs in a classroom because we don't have that many children. And so let's use that space to let children distance a little bit more, but still have that opportunity to play with the things that they want and need to experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So much of the conversation will be, right? Like when there's such a major event, it's like, that's the marker, right? Pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah.
Right. But, and I also wanted to just go back to one thing Kristin said, because it really just resonated with me. And I think it's a big probably takeaway for other administrators to start the conversation with, okay, so how might we do this differently? And hopefully you're able to get, you know, your team together to have that conversation. So, you know, I've got all sorts of creative ideas coming out of that and figuring out how you can make it work. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really helpful strategy that administrators can use as they plan to reopen in August.
Yeah. Our licensing rep also said, you know, we have these stable groups, and so we kind of have to think about them as our family members as well, because we're all staying with the same people. And so really, instead of limiting everything that everybody can do, think about that you're a family member and think about how you'd be doing things if you were at home. And so, you know, they are going to touch some of the same things, and we can't get to the point that every time someone touches something that we have to go put it up and clean it, but we're cleaning our hands a lot and we're doing top of the hour cleaning and those type of things. So we're doing whatever we can, but not moving so far to one side that we're just, the minute they touch something, then it's like banned and you can no longer touch it. So.
And to bounce off of that too, Laurie, I think, you know, when we were talking about coming back, there were teachers who were nervous. There were teachers who didn't want to come back, who were scared to come back, or, you know, after reading the DCFS new regulations, you know, were overwhelmed by what is required. And we heard this too from other programs that had opened prior to us. But, you know, I'd say after maybe the first couple days of them being back in the setting and okay, like, yes, we are able to do this. Yes, we can do this. Okay. Yeah. That they started, okay, this is just the new norm. And, you know, things picked up and it feels normal to me. And I think that that's the big piece that I want others to take away. Like, yeah, it's scary. Yes, we're going into the unknown, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We can't control everything, but at the end of the day, there is a sense of normalcy once we returned, and it feels good after a couple days. So
I was asking my teachers the same thing, what surprised you? And they said, it surprised me how it wasn't scary once you got into it whatsoever, that it was just part of that. And that's what they said, the exact same thing, that that's what surprised them the most, that it wasn't that much to do. It seemed overwhelming when you first thought about it, but they just moved right in. It just became part of the routine.
Mm-hmm. And the kids too, like, you know, they have adapted so well. You know, they really are resilient. They really are. And it's funny, even watching my own personal children get ready to gear back up to going to school, and the conversations that are around masks and wearing masks, and hearing other families say, well, I don't want my child wearing a mask all day. And I'm like, but they can do it. And right. They do it, and sometimes they do it better than the adults, you know, like unfortunately it's not forever, and we have to remember that, hopefully, right? But it's okay, and you know, as long as you make it a positive experience, you will be okay.
That's right.
Yeah, and the kids have been really good about the masks. Like, even the little kids, there's some kids that, you know, they're in the 2-year-old room, and we were kind of like, okay, well, that's at the bottom of the level in terms of what is required. And there's a little girl in one of our rooms, and she has no trouble. She wants to wear it outside. She doesn't want to take it off. So all of the fear that they're not going to be able to adjust to it, or that it's going to get in their way, it's just another thing that you just have to get used to, but it does become part of just the norm of that interaction. And I am not even hearing the kids really talk about it from the standpoint that like that it is in their way. It's just matter of fact. All right, we're going to get our masks, or, you know, hold on, I don't have my mask, you know, up, or I don't know. It just, it has normalized very, very quickly. And I think that too comes from modeling. You know, when the adults in the room are being consistent in their wearing, you know, if we've got, I know a couple of the rooms have photos up.
Yeah, I
in
was
the
just gonna say that.
classroom.
Yeah,
You
the
did say that?
display. Yeah.
Sorry. That show like kids with masks on and adults with masks on. It's just, it's great. Again, just like any kind of environmental, you know, pictures and print that we're putting up, this is now part of just helping everyone recognize what it is that we have to do to keep each other safe. So
even our dolls have masks on. We've made little masks for the dolls, and the dolls wear the mask.
oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I laugh at the display that's in one of the classrooms. Like, they did such a great job of posting, you know, your diverse photos. And then there's like, I think Spider-Man or Superman with his mask on. And so it's just, you know, like, and puppies and those types of things. So they really, you know, made it fun for the kids too, you know, like, so.
And I really appreciate how you mentioned that if you make it positive and you make it, this is normal, we're going to role model, this is what it looks like, and we're all just going to do it. Children adapt so much easier when the adults in their lives are demonstrating it as a positive experience and explaining that this is what we're doing to keep ourselves safe and to keep each other safe. So thank you for sharing that.
My daughter was very excited when she received her first mask in the mail from a coworker who made it for her. First thing she said was, "Oh, I can go to Hy-Vee now," because I was grocery shopping and at home and like, okay, mommy's got her mask on. Now I get to go grocery shopping. So for her, I know for some children that might not have been their experience, but for her, you know, she was really excited because again, the adults were doing it in her life and she wanted to, you know, be like us. So
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your specific examples. I know in some of the conversations we've had with educators and professionals, there has been a lot of conversation around particular interest centers and some people saying, you know, no, it's not, I don't think we can have dramatic play anymore. And so I'm just so happy to hear the ways that you guys are making that work because we know it is so, so important at this age. So is there anything else related to interest centers that you guys want to share as far as creative ways to keep all your interest centers in the room, or how, you know, because we know that's the curriculum.
I think the only interest center that we really took out was just, we took out the actual water table, just because it wasn't, but like you said, so we do it individual, you know, it's like, it's not that we can't do it the way we did it, but we can still do those things. We have individual Play-Doh, we have individual water tub that they can play with and empty out and so forth. And so it's not, we can't, it's how can we. I love that when you said that, Kristin, because that was exactly how we thought about things too, was not, nope, check that, take that out, we can't do that, can't do that. It was, we really looked at that. How can we make sure that we keep every single interest center that we've always had in there before?
Yeah,
Go
ahead, Kristin.
I was just gonna say, the way that we have always kind of put like, or I guess our organization of our materials in general was, you know, we have spaces and closets and, you know, our dramatic play, we have prop boxes. And I think one of the guidances that we just gave to staff is be aware of what you choose to put in. Not that we're taking it out, but what materials are you putting in? If that thing is really hard to wash, then we don't want to have it in there.
Right.
Like, you know, like try and seek out those materials that are going to be able to, you're going to be able to wipe them down more easily. So play food, I mean, that's easy. It's all plastic. You know, even some of the stuff for the younger kids is very easy to wash. I mean, it's made for kids anyway. So most of the stuff that we have is very, very washable. So I think that's the other piece, is just like how do you not limit it and just look at it a different way so that you're choosing the materials purposefully, not, again, intentionally according to the children's interests, but then also you have to think, this is something that we're going to be able to clean easily. Is it porous? Is it, can it be submerged? That kind of stuff. So if it isn't, then don't choose that material and choose something else that would, do the job.
I was just going to piggyback. It's not necessarily an interest center, but our outdoor time too. We've been directed to make sure that we're cleaning and sanitizing in between use. And so we really looked at this as an opportunity of how we can cut down on some of that time with our teachers. And so one of the things that we did is we got a big old bin laundry basket and filled it with, each classroom has their own outdoor materials of balls and frisbees and baseball bats and those types of things. So that way you don't necessarily have to clean all of that right after. They just put it in the bin and take it in, or, take it, that's their bins, those classrooms, so that they can come back at, and there's a downtime to go ahead and clean that versus having to have somebody outside to do that, which takes a lot of time too.
Right.
So.
But I was going to say, we divided up our bikes and things so that each class had like 4 bikes and those. And then what we went and we bought the little pump sprayers like you would spray in your yard, the little gallon ones. And so we put our bleach in that and we take it out with us. And that way, then you're not just doing this. It goes in a more steady stream. So
I really like that idea. We might write that down. I think we might take that back to ours. Because
and teachers have
spray bottles, and it takes a while.
Time to do the spray bottles. Yeah. And so the days that we can't go outside, we have an indoor gross motor room, and so we do the same thing in there. We've made sure that there's a half an hour time between each class goes in and out, and have done that. And teachers have even found at night when they're really spraying down the toys and things that they like this pump sprayer to even spray in the classroom, because you don't have to, it's not a trigger spray that you just kind of push it and it keeps going. So they sell them at Walmart. They're like, I don't know, $10 for a little pump sprayer. So
cool.
To me, it really sounds like your experience has been you're still able to have like high quality programming in the classrooms and outline appropriate practice and have the interest centers just kind of change a little bit. So
inside and out, I feel. So
yeah, wonderful. So well, let's maybe take the conversation a little bit of a different direction then. I'm sure you've probably, there's concerns, some of you mentioned, like, how the teachers were responding. Families all have their own concerns and ways of responding as well. And it was certainly a new territory for families too. So can you guys speak to like how you prepared families as they were coming back to the center, and just ways that you're communicating different now,
When we returned, our program decided to put together a video just talking about the new safety protocols that we have in place, and just recording a family going through those steps so that could be shared with both the family and the child. In addition to that, we also put a video together of all the staff wearing their masks and just, removing the mask to say hello, that it's still us, that, we're just doing what we have to do to remain safe. And that seemed to get a lot of positive responses. Even the staff really enjoyed, being part of that and welcoming everyone back and being, a team again. So yeah, I would strongly encourage something like that if that's something that you guys are able to do.
Yeah. We were very strategic about who we were going to place at the door and so forth. So we did those same things. We had Zoom call with our families as they were returning, and each group that has returned. So we had a June's for those, and we had some that came back, and just last week we had a Zoom call, and then we have another group that's coming back in August. So we're doing that. We sent out our COVID action plan, exactly what we submitted to DCFS. We sent it to our families too, because we wanted them to know that these things are very well thought out, and these were going to be our procedures. But then also, as we thought about who was going to be that first person to welcome them at the door, Families don't come into our center. They only come as far as the foyer, and we take them back. And so we were very strategic about the staff that we placed at the door. We have a male staff member that all of the kids just absolutely love. They just can't wait to see Jordan, and that's all they talked about all during our time away, as they miss Jordan. And so Jordan and another teacher, Alicia, we made sure to send pictures out with them, because here they are now in their N95s and their face shields and gloves, and we have lab coats and all of those things. So it almost looked like you were going to the doctor's office when children came in. But we wanted to make sure that children knew this, hey, this is Jordan and this is Alicia, and this is what they look like when they come in. And so just preparing them before they got here for those experiences.
My experience with the families has been that they have been very appreciative of the additional conversations and communications. It's been helpful to we've sent out a lot of emails to families just kind of listing. I did not send them the whole DCFS reopening plan. I thought that would be overwhelming and scary. So I highlighted it. It was bullet point list of the things that were going to most impact them in terms of, you know, the health screenings being added and the stable groups, and we can't switch, and the teachers have to stay, and outside time has to be one group at a time. So anything that was really going to be different, that they were going to encounter as being different, I wanted to make sure that they knew that those were in there. And all of the communication that I've gotten back from families is, thank you so much for painting such a clear picture of what it looks like. Like either it was too much for families and they decided we're not ready to come back, or it was just enough information that allowed them to feel like there was a plan, they do know what's going to be happening, and it allowed families to feel comfortable enough to return. And so it's been important, as we've had ongoing communication with families, to keep that same frame of transparency. And if I can tell you about it, I'm going to tell you about it, because I don't want there to be secrets about what we're having to go through or how it's impacting us or our program. I want to be open about how this is hard, and we don't know everything, and we haven't encountered everything yet. And so as we encounter new things, policies and procedures might change, and we just have to have good open communication with everybody. I think one of the hardest parts for us is trying to make sure that we have spaces for all the people that do want to return in fall. You know, as administrators, trying to figure out, okay, we know we want to have more classrooms open, and we know we have more teachers coming back to our fall semester. How do we keep the group sizes small so we still feel like we can maintain? How do we keep the ratios? You know, obviously keeping them within DCFS is not an issue. The issue is more so that I have more families, according to paper, that want to use the care than I feel like safely we can care for. And so I'm really just waiting for families to kind of self-select and say, maybe we're not ready, we'll come back later, and that will help me out from having to tell somebody that they can't come.
And that's how it's worked for us as well, that families have kind of self-selected about what was working for them, and families that weren't ready yet, I have a list going of when we return to 100%, you know, then you're the first one that we're going to call and things. And we serve community and students, and of course our first priority is always students. So at this time we aren't enrolling any more community children in the center, that we're only taking students at this time. But we were able to serve all of our previous community families that were needing care. So that was important. The other thing that we're really doing a lot is that we have always had a parent app that we use. We use Brightwheel. I know there's a zillion of them out there that are different kinds of parent app, but it's been very comforting because parents actually can't go in the classroom. We're being very cognizant about making sure to send numerous pictures throughout the day. The teachers have the ability to message back and forth with them. You know, of course, it has things about their activities and things on it. And so, not that we didn't use those things before, because we did, but we're using them even more so now, because that's the other thing that's really important to us, is to have that family engagement in our classrooms. And so how do you create family engagement when you can't have families come in? So.
Yeah, I know that's something I certainly miss is just, that morning time of being able to go into the classroom and chat a few minutes informally and help, see that my daughter is kind of transitioned into the classroom and is playing and ready to get her day going. So I'm sure those videos and photos, are like really, really comforting to families.
It sounds like you both programs did a really nice job of preparing families before the children came back. But it also sounds like you guys have almost increased your communication some with families as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. I think just like you said, it's about that we've got to be open with them. My favorite part of my job pre-COVID was always that sitting there, and families would always stop in my office on the way out there. And so even though I'm not the door person, that I try to be hanging out by the door in the morning when families are coming in, or in the evening. So, I can peek out the door or talk to them through the door, or those things, still to keep that connection is so important, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we talked about families. I'm wondering if some of you could speak to specifically how you really help the staff, like maybe what type of training were you offering, or what type of resources you found really helpful to get staff ready and prepared with the new protocols. And how has that looked? I guess your professional development's probably changed and maybe shifted, right? You got your annual plan of what's important, and COVID probably knocked some of those to the back burner and put some other things up front. So curious to hear a little bit about that.
So being a university employee, they have a pretty standard returning to work training that all employees of the university had to take prior to coming back. And that's just with the university policies that they have put in place. I can't think of anything specific, and maybe Kristin, you can think about it a little bit more, but I know from March to June, about 95% of our teachers were ready and wanting to come back. Like, just put me in, I don't care. Like, I'm I don't like doing this work from home stuff. That's not what I signed up for. They were ready to come back. They were excited to get back, nervous, but they were excited. Obviously they used that time for professional development too. And so they were picking a variety of topics, nothing specific to COVID that I can think of, like as a group. Individually, once we got closer to returning, they were taking, looking up some things to put in the classroom, and just some new material, a lot of things from Conscious Discipline, a lot of their posters they were looking at. But yeah, maybe
model, Amy.
Yeah, and pyramid model. I cannot forget pyramid model. That checklist that they just sent out is amazing, and they have it does have a lot of good, useful resources and printouts that are in there that I've shared with our staff too, and have seen in some of the classrooms. So definitely use that as a resource. But maybe Kristin, you can touch on if I can't remember if there was any like specific training.
So specifically, we encouraged all the staff to access some of the Conscious Discipline training on trauma. One of the, we sent out the link to everyone and really said, we're all kind of in this trauma state right now, the whole country. Personally, everybody's dealing with this at a much different level. You yourself are trying to reconcile, I want to go back, but is it safe to go back? The kids have been home or in all kinds of additional care settings that we're not even aware of. And so we don't know what that has looked like for them. And we just want to be prepared. So we encouraged everybody to seek that out. We have also been working very closely with our 4C social emotional counselor. What is her?
Social worker?
Yeah, social worker.
Whatever, yeah. Sure, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's been great to have those additional outside resources. I mean, again, part of the university, we always mention that our employee assistance program was doing, they're the ones that put that back to work video together for the whole university, but they're also available, and our HR website has a ton of things about just, self-care and being prepared. And just everyone, I think the tone in general has just been, we understand that everyone is in a different place and we want to support where everyone is coming from. So even if you're not feeling comfortable, we want to hear from you. We want to be able to talk through what are some of the things that you're worried about. And if you don't want to talk to me about it, let me hook you up with somebody who can support you that you might feel more comfortable talking to. So that is the consistent message anytime we get all of the staff together, to reflect, anytime we're having a staff meeting, how are things going? How are the new policies and procedures? What have we learned? What's working? What's not working? And just giving everybody a time to really just have that thoughtful sharing, sharing time together to try and bring everybody, together. I think we are, again, everyone's experiencing it from different levels. Some people are more nervous about it than other people, and we really just want to send the message to staff that we can get you the supports that you need. We just need to know you need them. I think that's the piece that's hard, is I can't read your mind, but I want to make sure that I connect you with a resource that's going to best help you feel like you can continue to do your job.
So my staff, while we were actually closed from about March 23rd until June 20th. And so we did a lot of online trainings that were going on. And there were numerous trainings out there about reopening your centers. The very first one we listened was to someone in New York. And after we listened to that, we were all scared half to death about coming back, because they were down to like, oh, now someone can't use the same crayon, and they've got 6-foot lines everywhere. And so we were like, oh my gosh. And then we listened to some others that were like, oh, but wait, it doesn't have to be like that. And then one of the best things that we did this here in Springfield through our CCR&R, that we have a directors group, and some of the directors had been they'd been providing emergency care. And so we were able to connect with them on there and really kind of talk it through, because I think it's so important to talk to people that are just really kind of going through this with you, that you're going, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a great way to think about that. And so that ability to connect and network is the thing that got us through everything and helped everybody feel more comfortable. So I think that networking thing is so important, that make sure that you get your group that you can network with.
Agreed.
And you use the word connection, which I just think, connection for children, connections for staff or families, like that's the key, I think, is helping people stay connected and in the loop, and, communicating and knowing what's going on and just feeling supported. So
I'm so fortunate here at Lincoln Land, and UIS is there. And so Lincoln Land's Child Care Center and UIS's Child Care Center, they're about a block away from each other, and we connect all the time. That I'm always calling Stacy and saying, okay, how are you doing this? I need some help. Help me think through this. And so you've got to have somebody else that helps you think a different way. Sometimes when your only connection is with your own group, you can't see other ways of doing things. So I think it's really important that you think you make a connection with this school or this school or this school, because everybody comes at this and looks at things with different eyes.
And again, I like how you mentioned that, because you mentioned that you have that connection. Let's talk about it. How we can, I'm struggling with this. How can I do it a different way? Instead of just thinking I can't do this.
That's
so
right.
Reaching out to someone to get ideas. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just saying, we've seen that just right here in our conversation today, the value of talking with one another. Amy's like, oh yeah, hey, I want to try that.
Buying the sprayers as soon as we're done.
Get that P card out.
I got it. I'm ready to spend.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What are some other topics? Hot topics. Oh, we haven't really talked much about how your meal service and snacks have been impacted. So I know that's been some questions we've been receiving as well. So
I think that's been a hard thing for our families as well, because we always served family style. And so families are always worried about meeting children's nutritional needs. And so here, if you don't want your vegetables, but you want 2 servings of fruit, children are serving themselves family style. We're certainly encouraging them to try everything, but they have that freedom. And so now that things are plated, we don't have that opportunity. They're getting the full serving of things. And so I've had to help parents understand a little bit about children's nutrition, and that, you know, we aren't really able to give seconds or pass the bowls around like we were before, but really kind of help them understand children, and encourage them that if they really are worried about their children's nutritional needs, you know, let's consult with a doctor and see what the doctor says, and things like that. So that's kind of been a little bit different for us, just that that's how we had always done it, and that's how parents expected that we were doing it, and we all of a sudden had to make that change.
Our program also used to do family style. During this time, we've moved to the pre-plating of food prior to meal times. And I haven't heard much feedback about that, even from teachers too. I think the biggest change for us is that we're not doing cooking activities right now. And so some of the classrooms are missing that. You know, even sitting down and making a big old bowl of Play-Doh together, they're not doing, just because of the, you know, the extra caution. So I think that's the one thing that I'm hearing about from some of the teachers that I meet with on a regular basis, is that they're just missing, you know, making smoothies, or, you know, popsicles are always big in the summer, you know, fresh fruit popsicles, and they're just not able to do that right now. So
one of the things that we did, because we are still doing seconds and extras, because we gave all the classrooms the serving, the measuring cups. And so instead of a regular like spoon that the kids would self-serve, obviously the teachers have to put the full portion on the plate, but we have enough food that's being delivered still in the family style way to each classroom, and then the teachers are plating that at mealtime. That we can give the full serving for everybody when they're first getting their meals, but then if they want seconds of carrots, the teachers can go over and see what's left and scoop out additional. So they're just using the measuring cups to make sure that we're sticking with the food programs. You know, you have to give the full serving if the adult is serving it piece. So the measuring cups have helped us just make sure that we're maintaining those correct portion sizes. And then I guess maybe we're just buying too much food.
Well, that's how we are too, that we always buy a lot of food. And again, we only have 4 classrooms. And so ours has actually been plated in the kitchen instead of going out. And so that's where ours.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
And so that's where you guys are sending it out and teachers are plating it. Ours is being plated in the kitchen. And so that's been the hard thing for us, because that was never was done before. And so we've been racking our brain again. Well, how could we do this? You know, or how could we send some extra things out? And so it was just the topic of our staff meeting last week, was to try to brainstorm, hey, how could we do some of those things? So we're always trying, and then we come up with an idea and we try it and evaluate that. And if it didn't work, we'll try something else, or we'll go from there and add to it. And that's the story of everything during this, that you just keep trying, and if that didn't work, try it a different way, or what did work about it, what didn't work about it, and so forth.
And that your plan's going to have to be revamped multiple times. You know, that's the other piece, that if we got anything out of this, is that flexibility is key. You have to be flexible. You write a plan and things are going to change the next day. You write it again, you adjust the plan and things are going to change the next day. And so that's just really, it's day by day planning, and you know, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So.
And our licensing rep made me feel so good when we did it. She said, you know, Laurie, this is the first time that all of us are living life like this. And so, you know, nobody's doing anything wrong. We're just all trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. And so don't beat your up. You're going to find out things, oh, well, that didn't work at all, you know, and you've got to find another way to do it. So just know that it's fluid. It's fluid. We're gonna keep figuring this out, and we're gonna find easier ways to do it, or we're gonna find out that was just the expectation to do that just didn't work whatsoever.
Laurie, I'm really glad that you brought up licensing reps, because I do think sometimes your licensing rep gets a bad rap, like the person who's coming in to like scold you on something. And I have found just the opposite. Our licensing rep has been a real advocate and a real support person in all of this, just in helping us think through. You know, we were on a phone call last Friday with her for about 45 minutes, just saying, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? You know, for our fall plan getting started. And, you know, just that opportunity to have that sounding board and bounce off some ideas. I mean, she still has to go off of a set of rules and expectations, but at least if we are able to have that conversation and trust her to ask those questions, you feel a lot more confident about your plan when you have more people helping you build that plan, and you know that what you're putting forward is something that everybody is on board with. So you know, reach out to those people in your community that are your partners or are supposed to be your partners, and allow them to partner with you, because it really does help you feel supported when you can work with everyone on this.
And even hearing from her that it's not a right or a wrong way to do it, but then it was, well, I've seen other programs do it this way, or some of the programs I supervise do it this way. So offering kind of, not saying that the way we're doing it is the only way, you know, kind of what you were saying, that there's multiple ways, just try to figure out what's best for you. But it was helpful to hear, okay, let's think about this a little bit differently. So
yeah. And I think that's the key, that, you know, I've always viewed her as our advocate and not our supreme ruler that comes in and tells us right or wrong or things like that. So,
well, you all have communicated kind of that reflective practice piece, and, you know, just going back to how is this working. So let me ask, kind of thinking about this whole experience, is there something, is there anything you'd go back and change that kind of stands out to you that might be of value to share with other educators and administrators as they are getting ready to head back in August?
Go ahead,
no,
Laurie.
No, you go ahead, Kristin.
I was just gonna say, I don't know that I would change anything about what we did, but I am thankful for the fact that we weren't trying to open with 2 days notice.
Yes.
You know, we knew that we were shooting for a June 15th opening, but we started looking at that on that May 31st when we found out that people could open on June 1st. And so we gave ourselves, I feel like we gave ourselves enough time to think over the plans, meet, talk to people, get information out to families, you know, talk with DCFS, get our plan, obviously get your plan approved, but we weren't rushing. So I think, you know, as programs are starting to open up and as they're building, give yourselves time to go back over the plans and look it through and bring everybody to the table and go over them. I remember several Zoom, you know, Teams meetings where we brought all the staff together in the virtual environment, and we went over the plan, the reopening plan, I feel like 4 times, where we were like, okay, this is now the new draft, and this is what's changed from the last time you guys saw it. And so just so that everybody was aware of, hey, this is what we put out there, but that's not what ended up being okay, so we had to switch it. So here's the new things that we put out there. And I think just allowing that time to get comfortable with what the plan looked like and then implement it, we weren't rushing it. You know, we had time to put that plan into practice. And I think as programs are opening, giving yourselves that time. Don't try and do it in 2 days. You will feel overwhelmed. You need the time to really absorb the plan, know the plan, get everybody trained on the plan so that you can operate and everyone feels comfortable, you know, with things that are new.
I think that was one of the biggest successes, I guess I would say, that we had, is that we were so transparent with the staff from the get-go. I mean, we had that plan developed before we even had a plan to come back. Like, we didn't even know when we were going to be able to come back, and we were already sharing, like, this is what it's going to look like. And I remember even Kristin telling me one day, like, we need to start having those conversations with the staff, because some of them are just like, oh, it's going to come back the way that it used to be. And, you know, even myself was one of those, like, what? Like, you know, those, and so it was nice to have some type of plan. And we've, like Kristin said, we've communicated that plan with them from day one, and we still continue to communicate that plan. And even as the plan changes, there might be there's some regulations that got taken out of the original plans, but we're still practicing those because the teachers feel comfortable with that and the teachers want to do it. We could have easily just said, stop doing it, but they're the ones that are doing this day-to-day work. And so they need to be, they're just as important to piece to that plan than, us as administrators sitting down and writing it. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think about anything differently too. And I don't know, like that's, hopefully we won't have to do this again, but I think we do already.
The one thing that I know that we are thankful for is that we were able to come back in stages. That, we started out and we can serve up to pre-COVID 68 kids. Now with this, we're 54, but we started back with 20 kids. And so they got in that routine. And then we added 10 more, and those families got in that routine. And I know that that's may not be possible for schools to have that type of thing, but even if it's just the first week or so that you have this group that comes on these days and they get comfortable with what the new things are going to look like, and then another group comes and they get comfortable, that I think being very thoughtful about that before you just put everyone in a room all overwhelmed about all these new changes that are going on, I would really encourage people to be thoughtful about how they could stagger that and give children and families both that time to be comfortable with what the new procedures are.
That would help with teachers as well, being able to do it more gradual so that they're not trying to teach 20 kids the new procedures, but they can do it in smaller groups.
Yes. So I don't know how that would work with plans, but it could be certainly something that again, it's not if we could do it, it's how we might be able to do it is what we have to keep thinking.
I'm going to take that phrase as I'm supporting teachers. We have teachers ask us all the time to come into their classrooms, which we're probably not going to be able to do this fall, but I imagine we might be doing more kind of Zoom meetings and having conversations with teachers. So taking that phrase for me.
So Emily, we're going to just be doing it. How can we do it? We're still going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I was just looking at my list and it looks like we've covered a lot of the main topics that we wanted to get to, but so I just want to kind of open up the floor for any other comments, questions, words of advice, things you want to share that we haven't already talked about.
The one thing that I will say that it's probably been the one of the harder things is about transitions for children, both in the classroom and then transitioning children into new classrooms have both been challenging. First of all, transitions in the classroom, that all of a sudden you have now the mask in there, and so we've got to get ready for lunch, and that means that we've got to go put our masks up, or we're going to go. We've come back in from outside, and how you do that. So those kind of things teachers are working out. But for us, it's about how do you give children. We were always very thoughtful in our transitions, that we'd have children come and visit in classrooms and so forth before they would actually start in a classroom, so that they would have that. And with all of these things, it's kind of all or none. And so we have been trying, once again, not thinking if we could do it, but how we could do it. And so as new families are coming in, that we've thought about after hours, having them come in so that they can see the classroom and meet with the teachers. And it does add a little bit of workload to teachers, but my teachers are so dedicated to families that they want to do whatever they can to make that transition work best for them. Using virtual things, even though we don't think that's the best, you really need to have that face-to-face thing for children. And so again, just kind of thinking about transitions in general.
I think just give yourself some grace a little bit, because nobody's done this before. And so to have the expectation of yourself that you should know what to do, that's not realistic. You know, we're all kind of living this all together in this new way. And, you know, it's okay not to know it all right now. And I think just remembering that, I know I have to tell myself that all the time, every time something is different, like, well, how come I'm behind, or why am I not doing this? Well, guess what? It's not the same as it used to be. And, you know, this is a global pandemic. When have we ever had this experience before? Not. So it's okay I think you just have to give yourself a little bit of grace to know that as you're working through some of these things and as you're planning, it might not be perfect, but that flexibility is necessary, and that, like, hey, we're gonna see how this works, and if it doesn't, let's just be all on the same page and have good communication. So if it's not working, we have the ability to state that and then make changes. Like Amy said at the beginning, like, flexibility has been key to this, because there's so much that it just changes very fast, and you just have to go, all right, we're going this direction now. Because otherwise you do kind of run the risk of feeling like you are going crazy, like you just can't get your feet under it. And just stopping and kind of just going, look, nobody has any experience with this, so we're kind of, you know, like Laurie said, we're making up the rules, and we're just gonna see how it goes. You know, we'll follow the rules that they've given us, and then try and do the best we can with the developmentally appropriate stuff, that the stuff we know is good for kids. Keep that stuff in there, you know. So yeah, I think just give yourself some grace, and know that we're all just, no one's doing it better than someone else. It's just we have to all get there.
One of my teachers said when we were coming back, she's like, if I can't give a child a hug when they need a hug, then it's not worth us coming back. And so there's some things that we just have to do, you know, where we're being as safe as we can, we're wearing our face masks, we're doing that, but still children have needs, and we're not gonna push them back 6 foot because they need something, and I'm there to help them.
I think for me, the big piece to always remember is its mindset. So you get a list of new regulations that tell, you know, is now you have to do this, you can't have this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And if you look at it with the negative mindset of they're taking everything away from early childhood, then that's the experience that you're gonna have. If you come to the table with, okay, like Kristin said from very early on, I have to do this, I want to do this, this is important to me, how can I make it happen given the regulations that I have? And so in just looking at it with a positive mindset and just this whole experience, I think that is one of the successes of our program, is that all of the staff are on board and understanding our new policies that we have put in place, even if they are temporary, and, you know, making sure that we are doing what is best for children. And if it means giving them a hug, it means giving them a hug.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So, and they'll do it, you know, so.
When we were looking at what I saw a picture that someone had posted, and it had a whole classroom divided out in 6 foot squares, and every child could only have their own 6 foot square or something like that. And we're like, no, that's not how we're doing this. We know that's not what's good for children. And so you have to get beyond the 6 foot square mentality, that you have to think about, how can I make this whole classroom good for still the good place that children need to come, and that there's opportunities for their learning there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Laurie, Amy, and Kristin. This has been really great. I think we should do this again sometime in a couple of months and say, hey, how's it going? Or talk to some of the teachers too. And
we need to hear from them after this, so we can find out what they found out, so they can share with us, because we can go, oh, I'm going to use that. So.
Absolutely. This should be an ongoing podcast. We need a part 2.
With me outside with my sprayers.
There you go. Yeah. So, well, for people who are listening to this podcast, I do just want to let them know that StarNet is certainly a support. And Bridget has actually been, with our colleague Anna, kind of running a monthly, I don't think it's monthly right now. Maybe Bridget, you want to speak to that?
Right now it is monthly. It'll
Okay.
change as school gets started.
Okay, so if people are looking for networks, people to talk to, like, how are you doing this? StarNet is definitely facilitating that. We do have some administrator networking groups. Amy's joined in that when that was developed pre-COVID. But yeah, we've been trying to just provide a platform for people to come together and chat and have conversations and learn from one another. So please reach out to us if you want to get connected with other professionals, and we can certainly help you do that. So, well, thanks again so much, everybody. Here, and best of luck as you continue to adapt and be flexible and navigate all these changes. So,
Hey,
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.